My name is Dan Walkowitz. About 30 years ago, I started on a journey that has transformed my life completely. It was brought about by a conversation I was having with our 17-year-old daughter, sharing with her my concerns about the fact that her older sister had advised us that she was going to marry a young man who was black and not Jewish. Those things troubled me, and I was sharing those things with her. She brought me up cold when she told me that she thought I was prejudiced. The remainder of that journey is discussed in a video that I put out about 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, that can be seen at this URL. I hope you can read this, but I'll read it to you in case. It's https://bit.ly/racism_journey. In that video, I describe what that encounter meant to me, how I processed it, and what I did about it. Today, I want to create a follow-on video that deals with the subject truth. Not actually truth as a general philosophical concept, but rather your truth. More specifically, your truth in a particular situation. The word truth took on a whole new meaning for me when my wife and I went to a play a number of years ago, written by a young black playwright from Colorado, whose name is Lamaria Amina. The play was called, and is still called, Black. It was produced at a local high school to a group of perhaps 150, 200 people, predominantly children, many mixed race or minority, accompanied by their parents. The play begins with two women looking out at the audience. One is white, the other's black. The white woman is sitting in a chair sobbing for a minute, maybe a minute and a half it seems. And finally she looked up at the other woman, the black woman, who was standing very stoically, and said to her, "Why are you not more emotional about this?" And the black woman very apprehensively finally said to the white woman, "I will share with you my truth. No questions allowed, no interruptions, no arguments, only questions for clarification. If you're willing to comply with those terms, I will share my truth." The play was about the white woman's husband, who was a police officer, who had killed a young black 8-year-old boy, and the mother was the other woman in the play. That word took on a whole new meaning to me as a result of that play, and I began to recognize the importance of different truths. My truth, coming from a Jewish, somewhat conservative, white background, is different than the truths of other people who come from different cultures, religions, and backgrounds. And the play made that point clearly enough to me where it really has had an impact on me. During the follow-up to the play, there was a young man, Hispanic young man, probably 16 or 17 years old, who said, "I would like to tell you about a situation where my friends and I were stopped and a policeman questioned us because he indicated that there had been a group of people like us who had committed a crime or a series of crimes in the neighborhood. I felt that that was racist." That really kind of surprised me because I didn't see it to be racist at all. In fact, I raised my hand but was never called on to recount a situation where my wife and I and her girlfriend and boyfriend at the time were in Wisconsin. My wife and Rosie had left their dorms, checked out. We had gone to a party, and we were now looking for the home of an address that we couldn't locate. We were driving around and around in the neighborhood, actually at one point pulled over by a police cruiser behind me and in front of me. He, the police officer that came to the car, took me and Sherry and Rosie in his car and asked Dave to drive our car and follow him to the police station, which we did. We were stunned. We had no idea what was happening. It made absolutely no sense. We went to the police station. They explained after 3 hours of literal interrogation, except that there were no lights above us. Dave and I were in separate rooms, questioning. Finally, at 3 o'clock in the morning, they let us go and explained to us that the issue that caused them to stop us was related to some young people who had been driving around setting fires in trash cans. Well, I compared that situation to the situation with the young man. We were white, the police officers were white, there was no racial issue involved, and I perceived that to be analogous to this young man's. I spoke with my son-in-law about that, and when I asked him whether he saw it to be racist, he, by the way, is black. I forgot to mention that my wife and I have 4 mixed-race grandchildren, 2 black young women who are granddaughters as well, and a great-granddaughter who's also black. So race in this country and race in the world means a lot to me and my wife and our family. Anyway, when I was talking with my son-in-law Mike, who is the father of 2 of those mixed-race children, and asked him if he thought it was racist, he said yes. I couldn't understand it, and frankly, he didn't fully explain it to me. But I have set up a clubhouse room with a gentleman who I met from London. It is quite an interesting meeting. We met in another room about entrepreneurial issues. Johnny is his name. He's from London. I was intrigued with the comment he had made. He's black. Asked if we could meet afterward. We got on a Zoom call, spent an hour and a half of the most incredible listening to each other interaction that I've experienced in a long time. During that, he asked me if he could take a picture of our Zoom call, which I did, which I said, of course, yes. He took the picture, and after the conversation, he posted on Instagram and Facebook that picture with the caption, "What do you get when you combine a black Muslim with a white Jew?" And the response was something like, "Something incredible." We have since put together a clubhouse room to talk about racism and prejudice, with the goal being to create constructive conversation about how we can improve things. Anyway, I posed the same question to him, explaining the situation with this young Hispanic man, and I said, "Do you think that that was a racist event?" And his response was, "Possibly." "Really? Well, explain more to me about why you say possibly." Well, Johnny explained that he had grown up in the West Indies, where there, like in America, I'm quite sure, black people were 10 times more likely to be stopped for no reason than white people. And as a consequence, he and many, if not most blacks in this country developed apprehension about police officers, something I've never felt, something most white people have never felt. But when I asked him, as a consequence of that, why he thought this possibly might be racist, he replied, "Think about this. If the cop was a racist cop, did he really know about any crimes that had been committed in the area by people who were Hispanic? Or was he just rousting these young people?" A whole different perspective. That was the truth that Johnny brought, and the truth that my son-in-law Mike brought, although he didn't express it clearly enough for me to understand, and Johnny did. Another example of that was the play Black, at the end brought signs about the various black people who had been killed at that time at the hands of white police officers, or black, but it was mainly white police officers. And that bothered me because, for example, in the case of Michael Brown, I thought that the grand jury had heard testimony from many of the witnesses, many of whom had said that Michael Brown came to the police officer with his hands up, as expressed, but then recanted that testimony at the grand jury and explained that that had not been the case. So I thought, based on that and the fact that there was DNA from Michael Brown on the police officer's gun handle, I thought that that was pretty clear that, in fact, there had not been any of the racist activity when Michael Brown was shot, but in fact a response to an attack by Michael Brown. And I asked my son-in-law Mike, what is it about that? Why does that not make sense? Why does not my position make sense? And Mike said something that stunned me when he said, because black people typically don't believe in the justice system as being just. Whoa, once again, a different truth, something I had not even contemplated. But I recognize and appreciate that perspective. So I'm posting this video to ask you to reflect on that. When you come to a conclusion based on your preconceived notions, your attitudes, your culture, your religion, your race, whatever it is, recognize that other people don't come at that situation with the same background, same perceptions, and same insights. And as I said in my first video, listen to each other. By that I mean black folks and Hispanic folks, listen to white people. White people, listen to black and Hispanic people. Pay attention to what they're saying and stop trying to present your opinion as the answer, because the result is we're going to have arguments and divisiveness. Better is to listen to each other, try and find common ground, and there is common ground, and use that to expand your own awareness and the things that you can do in the world to help improve a situation which in this country and elsewhere is badly in need of attention.